Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we have an unusual reel that Scott had found at a flea market. Why is it unusual? Well, it just didn't make that many of them. And we'll service this one, we'll tune it up, we'll show you how to do it. It follows the standard format of most Penn reels of the time, but it's just got some interesting and some annoying features on it. So I thought I would spend more time about that than the actual service, although you'll see me service the reel as well. This is the Penn 259. It's the Long Beach live bait caster. It has a frame that looks very similar to a Penn Senator 3.0 blackface and a black side plate. And it's got about the same width, same dynamics to it. It's a live liner. It has a couple of features that, well, they just differ a little bit. One of them against the Penn Long Beach series is that you have the outer chrome rings, like the Long Beach 60 and 65 and 6, 7, 8. They all have inner chrome rings, but not the outer chrome rings. The outer chrome rings appeared on the Penn Senator. This one is also from the, I believe it's the 50s. It has the etched side plate, which a lot of collectors like and enjoy. Let's bring that up a little bit closer. One of the things you can see is the boat trolling in the back with the 4 poles hanging off the side of it. You can also see the lighthouse in the distance and being on the water. Kind of tells you a little bit about how the reel should be used. What's the annoying feature here? Here's an interesting one. When you're free spooling, you move this forward, right, to release the spool, and then you move it backwards, the crank. Why is that annoying? If you have the line out and you're trolling and you get a wind loop on a strike, instead of being able to crank it in, a lot of times that line would actually grab that release lever, throw it forward, and instead of you being able to crank the fish in, you've let more line out, and sometimes that leads to a snap. So a little bit of an annoying feature there. I think if you look at the Senator lines and some of the others, they've reversed that, so cranking is always forward and the line can't catch it to take it out. Free spool is always backwards. This is the reverse. Just an annoyance. All right, well, we're going to take this reel apart. We'll show you how to service it. And as we do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of fishing reel repair, a little service if you like to learn something like we were just sharing here, or if you just kind of want to know a little bit more about the reels, their histories, and so on. Well, that's what I try to add as I talk through the servicing of the reel. For example, one of the things you can notice that makes this an older Penn reel is the size of that bullet handle. The newer Penn reels have larger bullets. So this one probably dates it into the late 40s, maybe early 50s. I'd have to go back and do the work. I'm not the expert on dating Penn reels, but clearly that is a smaller handle than the ones that are generally available today. So just a note in terms of a reference point as you're shopping around. Well, we took the handle off. We're going to take the star adjuster off. Notice that there's an indentation in that star adjuster there. That goes over the collar on the side plate. Keeps water from invading in. Invasive water, I guess. And there's one collar here. I'm looking at the inside of this, and it says that, boy, that reel is pretty nice shape because that brass is still nice and shiny there. And while I don't know how much this has been used, you can tell that oil is leaked out of the port because it's got the discoloration on the side. And the one thing out of all of this from a condition issue that would make you wonder is the reel seat itself has got a lot of freckling on it. It's been cleaned up, but it's got a lot of freckling on it and corrosion, which says maybe that reel seat has been replaced at one point, because if you look at the rest of the chrome, it's all bright and shiny. None of that has anything like the greening on the reel seat. So I don't know, maybe that was a fix there, or maybe this one's just sat in a rod holder and the spray got the reel seat a lot more than it got the rest of the reel, or maybe it just didn't get cleaned up because the line was on there. And whatever it was, well, we'll try and clean it up as best as we can. But that is a difference maker in the reel. It's also a difference maker in the collectability. You should be able to find a replacement reel seat if you wanted one. And what this reel seat has is it has a marking on there that says 30-200. Well, the 200 is the Surfmaster model, And, well, interestingly enough, it probably, this one possibly was made by a whole bunch of leftover parts. There were some pen models that did that. They utilized parts from everybody else. For example, if you look at this bridge, what looks odd about it? Well, quick answer, almost all the other pen bridges have a big pinion gear on here that fills that space. In this case, you have a big yoke, but a small gear. That's changed the ratio of the basic Long Beach reels. It's changed it to a higher speed, but I'll bet you this bridge, if it's stamped, says something like Long Beach 60 on it. We'll see. All right. To service the back end, well, there's not much going on there, but we've taken everything off, so we might as well go ahead, put a little bit of chrome polish on here and see if there's any more cleanup we can do there. Also, I mentioned that the outside was clean, the inside is not, so there is that freckling going on the inside of these crossbars. And we'll try and clean that up as well. I don't like leaving pitted portions on crossbars and the like, because if the line rubs against it, it is going to fray it, regardless of what type of line it is. All right, well, it's a little bit better, but we still have that pitting. You can't restore that, and it doesn't make sense to replate, but you can probably find that reel seat somewhere along the line, either buying a new old stock one from a parts distributor or finding a good replacement online. All right, we've done that. You can see this is one of the reasons why the reel didn't perform very well. There's nothing in terms of lubrication there, so we're going to put some grease into that bearing. Grease anywhere else, it's a waste of grease. You want to grease your moving parts. All right, we're going to put some on the stud on the back end of the spool. I'm just going to go ahead and put that right back in, like that. All right, let's go find out why we have that unusual set of parts there. To do that, we're going to remove the 4 bridge screws. And one of the things that I'm interested in when I take this off is that I want to see if this has a flat spring for the anti-reverse dog. If it has a flat spring, it is most assuredly 1950s or earlier, and it should have done the research. There are places out there that you can find some of the basics, like the years of manufacture and so on. But I should have probably looked at that before I got involved here. Well, there's 4 screws on the bridge. And what you're going to find with these 4 screws, I can't get this last one out, we'll get it out in a moment. 2 of them are fully threaded and 2 of them are partially threaded screws. The partially threaded screws go through springs on the yoke, and we'll show you those in just a moment. Again, I cup my hand so that I can catch the spring. If you get a little bit nervous with that, go ahead and put this in a gallon size storage bag, like a Ziploc or something. And if it shoots, at least it just stays inside the bag. All right, we're going to pull that up. Yep, we have exactly what I thought we would have. We have that flat spring. This one's not too flat, but it's a flat spring, which says pre-1957 in the manufacturer. And it's a little bit of a different dog, but again, I'm looking at this, I'm not seeing very much on here in terms of usage. All right, let's get these off. These have the original leather washers in it. People ask me, they think that the leather washers are no longer good. They're good as long as they remain flexible, and you can reuse them. There's no reason not to. They were very successful in being used for a very long time. If you want to upgrade to the HT100s, you could, but it's not necessary. It's only necessary if you find that they're brittle and cracked. And then, of course, you want to replace them. And if you do replace them, you want to swap them out for the newer drags. All right, we just pulled the pin that holds the gear sleeve on. Now we're going to remove that gear sleeve. And the reason we do that is the old grease tends to coagulate on here and cause the reel to bog down. All right, just grab that pin. I want to put that pin right back into the hole here as a start, and so I don't lose it. While I'm doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, you leave that in the comments section. I'll be happy to try and answer those questions for you. All right, we have a hard washer on the back here. This is all cleaned. We can go ahead and take our paper towel and wipe down any old grease. If it was really stubborn, go ahead and use something more abrasive like a kitchen scrubby or perhaps steel wool. In this case, it's just wiped off easily. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of grease, and only a little, don't put a lot in there. And we'll go ahead and reinstall. I do want to run a cotton swab through the channel here just to pick up any old grease. There wasn't much there. So we can reinstall. Go ahead and seat that down. Then you want to do the exact opposite of what you just did. Instead of pushing it out, you want to pull it in. And I use the channel lock pliers to pull down on the pin and set that back in. When you do this, you want to make sure that that pin seats in all the way. You can't leave it out. If you leave it out, you won't get the main gear in over the ridge here. Go ahead and put that hard washer on the bottom in. And that hard washer is telling me that that pin is still not set in all the way. So we'll go back and we'll do this again a little bit more. That should do it. There you go. That seats in nicely. Take your main gear then. You want to clean this. I'm going to use some WD-40 penetrating oil. You can use any penetrating oil you like. I'm going to use that because I'm noticing that these dried, varnished grease inside. There you go. Now you have a nice clean main gear. A lot of folks will use things like carburetor cleaner and brake fluid, brake cleaner, I guess, automotive products for cleaning. You're welcome to do that. As long as I have a clear channel and make sure that it's not jammed up with old grease. I just use the penetrating oils. I don't like the smells on some of those chemicals and don't know how they're going to perform. All right, take a look at the washers then. Then you want to check for flexibility. If the washer does this, if it moves back and side to side, that's fine. And there's a lot of meat left on that washer. That washer does not need to be replaced. All right, you're going to check all three. Sometimes one will dry out and the others won't. I'm going to take some fishing reel grease. In this case, it is a grease designed for drag washers, but you don't need that. I'm going to load it up. I'm going to do the same thing with the other two. I got plenty of grease on here. That's because these leather washers are permeable, and the permeable washers need to be kept lubricated or they will dry out. And we saw a lot of dried out grease there, so you want to make sure that you keep them fresh so that they don't break, because if they break, you won't have a drag. All right, just cleaning up the old greases on there. So what did we do? We start with one of these. You have two of these washers that are keyed washers. One goes high, one goes low. And you have one of these washers that is a eared washer, because the side points look like ears. This one. And that always goes in the middle on a 6-drag system. I used to say that all the time. Always goes in the middle on these systems. But, well, Penn just came out with a Versa-drag system. And I guess they're saying you can have all kinds of variability there. All right, the hard washer, eared washer, hard washer. Last of the keyed washers. Cap washer. That completes your drag. There's also a collar that we took off. You can put that on now, or you can put that on later. That collar is going to belong on the shaft. Let's go for the... Remove that last screw. Remove the yoke and the jack. Normally we'd want to clean the case inside. We'll do that as an example, but there's nothing inside the case to clean. This is unusual. So again, when you look at it and say, was the reel used? Well, those drags are pretty fresh. The case is very clean. I'm doing something very dangerous here. I'm cleaning with those parts on the table. Those parts on the table have a habit of getting knocked around and lost. I don't recommend that you do that. Kind of too far down the post now, right? We'll do the same thing here with this case, the gear side bushing. We're going to put a little bit of grease on that, or bearing. Let's go ahead and make sure that these are clean. This is your yoke, because it looks like a yoke for oxen or an animal plow team. And again, this is a very unusual one. Most of the time you would see the one that would accommodate the pinion gear from the Penn 60 model, but that's not this one. It is a Long Beach, and that's one of the changes or differences in that. So I think they've used the bridge. I didn't see a stamping on the bridge. You usually do, but I think that they used the bridge from the 60 and just changed the yoke to make this a higher speed model. Okay, let's go ahead and do the reassembly on this then. We've got the two springs. You don't do anything with springs other than put them back in the cavities where they belong. We've got the yoke and the pinion gear. Assembly goes next. When you center those over the holes of the spring, push it down and hold it while you put the jack back on. Make sure that the jack clears the stud there, and that'll hold itself long enough for what you need to do next. Take the bridge assembly, push down on the yoke assembly, and center the bridge. Now if you're working on a Penn Senator or some of the other Penn models, this trim ring has to come off because you don't have the clearance on the back gear. In this case, you have that clearance. Get one of the fully threaded screws through that bottom corner. Notice that you have a stud in the side plate right here. The dog is going to go on this, and that flat spring is going to wrap here and behind that stud against that back wall. You know, sometimes folks aren't used to seeing this assembly. They take the wheel apart and then they can't figure out for the life of them how the piece mounts. Well, we're going to show you that now. All right, that's how your dog goes in. The long flat side faces up. The shorter one that makes it look like the number 9 or the letter G, depending on which way you're looking at it, goes below. If you have a flat spring that is already bent in that condition, don't unbend it to rebend it. There should be enough tension on there. And this is how you do it. You put the leg of the spring on the top. Hopefully we can see this here. It wraps around that stud and sits on that back corner. Once you do that, complete the rotation on the bridge till it lines up with that screw, and partially tighten down that screw. Don't tighten it down all the way because there is some clearance issues from time to time. Make sure that you can start the other screws before you tighten them down. As I mentioned before, the ones that are partially threaded like this, they go up top, which is how I put that last one in, up top. And the fully threaded ones go below. Again, I'm only partially tightening these to make sure that I can get these set up and all of them in before I go further. All right, they're all in now. I'm going to tighten that, and I'm going to come back and reverse fields here. I'll go from the bottom. I guess I'll go back this way. I want to maintain the equal torsion or tension on the side plate itself. While I have this off, I want to clean up that old dried grease with some steel wool. And then we can reset this inner ring. I like to bring this off when I mount these side plates. On. It's in free spool now, right? The off refers to free spool on, free spool off, not the crank. A little bit of grease onto the shaft of the spool. And a good way to make sure that both side plates are aligned is to take a pick and run it through there and make sure it seats into your cross line or block, cross block. All right, we're going to put one on this side. Kind of doing the same thing we did with the bridge shaft then. Go to one side, we'll come back to the other side. You want to keep equal pressure on that side plate as you tighten it down. Remember, you got the spool in the middle there. Into gear. Find one of the shorter screws that belongs in the base. And then kind of rotate and do the same thing again. Go back to where you put the first one. Double it up. So the Long Beach line is an interesting line. We mentioned the 60, 65, 66, 67, and 68 reels. We didn't mention some of the others that have the same technology in them, just a little bit different cosmetics. And that would be the Seaboy series, the 85. And it would be the Delmar series, the 285. If you look inside those reels, if you can service this reel, you can service all of those reels using the same processes and procedures. The Penn really stuck with their design. All right, before we go any further, we're in free spool. You can give it a little turn there. Find it, like most, it's over tightened there. Yeah, it spins nicely. Why did they use the plastic? A lot of people ask, did they just try to cheapen up the reel by putting a plastic spool in there? They did not. If you notice what this reel says, it says Long Beach Live Bait Caster. And the caster is the operative word there. For casting, Penn decided to go with a lightweight spool because a lightweight spool has less resistance and can theoretically turn more than a heavier metal one. That's why that lightweight spool is on there. You could have bought the metal spool as an upgrade. I think it was $1 or $2, maybe more, but it came standard with the lightweight spool. Okay, you saw how that handle screw goes in. If we did not take that shaft off, you could have put oil in through there. That's why it says oil underneath that. Use your wrench to align the cavity in the screw with the cavity for the tie-down screw. You don't need that fancy wrench that I have there. If you have the Penn wrench, it's a little bit thinner, but it works equally the same, and you can use that to tighten it down. I just use that because, I work on a lot of Penn reels. I like the additional leverage. The handle's a little bit longer, and it's a little bit thicker. It's an Allen Tanny wrench. It's available at mysticparts.com if you're looking for one, and I enjoy using it. All right, well, let's see how we did then. Turns nice and easy. We're in free spool. Free spool's nice and easy. Nice and tight, and the drag is holding beautifully. All right, that is it. That's how you service a Penn 259 Long Beach live liner. It's a fun reel. Thanks for sending it in, Scott. I appreciate that. To all of our friends and fellows that are first responders and essential personnel, thank you for all that you've done. This has been quite an interesting 2022. Coming up on 2023 now. It'll be exciting to see what that brings. But thank you for all your service and support. It is appreciated. And to everyone, please stay safe, stay well, have a happy new year, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.